10th edition I5 series, and it is now that time in the day when I introduce to you your third speaker. He is somebody who who in 1987 started the first CAD center in the city, and that was done to providing drafting services to the architects and other industries here. And over the years, he has designed several apartments and residences, and has definitely designed and executed interior works of several showrooms and corporate offices. As a visiting faculty and as an examiner in various architecture colleges, he's very keen constantly to keep imparting his experience in architectural design to all his students. He's an extensive traveler, he is a keen photographer, and absolutely loves Hindustani classical music along with his wife. Please help me welcome architect Bharat Shah.
Hello.
That would be better because it's...
That's not working. Okay. In and out, to say. That's because of my family business. I had to take care of a lot of things, my properties, my business. So architecture was always a passion and always a question. Because I joined architecture because my very good senior Sanjay Shah was there. He was more a guide and a mentor for me. So I joined architecture, and for 5 years, still with me the question remained, what is architecture? So that's why my first slide shows that question mark. And to figure out, I was lucky, my parents supported me to go to the US to study. Yeah, I am an alumni of our great college here in Hyderabad. And so the journey for my quest to understand architecture took me to IIT Chicago. It's a very sort of a reputed department of architecture, founded by Mies van der Rohe. And unfortunately, I couldn't take their philosophy, because in 1980, that was the crisis of oil crisis. Everybody was talking about oil, especially in the US, where a barrel of dollar had risen from $7 to $25 or something like that. And this professor, who was he was the student of Mies van der Rohe, would not accept anything beyond technology or whatever he used to teach. I mean, so I got tired. Within one semester, I said, let me go out from here. I can't take this, because I did not go to the US in search of this kind of thing. Maybe that was not my nature. And so I moved to the neighboring state called Iowa State. Luckily, two of my classmates were studying there from architecture, but they were doing planning. So one is architect, Prakash Nair, and the other person is Vanita Venugopal. They are right now in the US. Prakash Nair is one of the leading school designers in the world. So anyway, coming back to Iowa State University, I was impressed with the campus, and that when I joined this was the latest building in the campus. And that's the interior. Here's the other side, the elevator. So, I was very lucky to have this professor, Professor Charles Masterson, a very interesting character. I think there are very few people I have met at that time who could speak for 4 hours continuously of sense in architecture. Okay, so in my design studio, he used to come very casually at around 1:30 after lunch, talk to us for 5 hours. We were a class of 12 students, international students, about 3 Americans, 3 from Saudi Arabia, 2 from Pakistan, 1 from India. So, and he really gave me a sort of a shake-up, okay? Because during the design studio, he used to ask me questions like, what is light? What is a place? How do you define a place? So these were the basic studio subjects. And I was really puzzled. What is a place? So, I mean, for 1 semester, we were talking about nothing but place, okay? Now you can imagine what kind of studio subject it is. Very, very rigorous understanding. I really started now understanding what architecture is all about, slowly, because he used to come back and in the studio ask me 101 questions about Indian architecture, Indian people, culture. I had no answers at that time. So I started looking at luckily, in that time, there were no internets, nothing. So the library was the only resource. So you go down to the library, spend hours and hours looking for information. So in the studio, after a month, the studio had become like a library because everybody used to go to the library, pick 12 books at a time, and the studio became a library. So after, in 2008, I revisited this professor, and here you will see him taking class. He's talking to my son over there, who happened to be also a student at that time in Iowa State University, but not doing architecture. He was doing genetics. So, what led me to define a place, after all that, this thing, I figured out a village is a place for us, especially for Indians. This is one sample of sketches which I got from some of the journals who are there. Luckily, and I think it was Domus or some issue, which carried a study on Indian villages. Basically, it talked about the physical, this thing. But this professor made me to look through the plan. Okay, this sketches is my imagination. All these things were over there already, but this section and this thing is what has come out. So, now that this questioning changed my thinking. And what I feel, especially when I go to college for the design classes, and the first thing I notice is nobody asks questions, especially the young students, okay? I think, I personally feel this, we are never trained to ask questions. And I very strongly believe if you ask about 100 questions, in that you will find your solutions for the problem. So this is one of my studies which I did over there. So when I came back, people were surprised. What? We learnt about villages, and that too Indian villages. I said, yes, okay. Because the fundamental philosophy of village, it takes care of a lot of things, okay, which we talk about, especially identity, culture, space, light, and the structure itself. So it encompasses a lot of things, and that's where all the basic philosophy of architecture means to me. So the next topic, what my professor gave me, was the subject of light. So light, that's very interesting, because architecture is nothing but what it reveals in light, okay? The structures revealing light. So again, the quest started for me to find something very interesting about light. So while flipping through all the journals, I came back to this particular plan, where an article was published by Kulbhushan Jain and Meenakshi Jain. And it was a study of Jaisalmer. And the section impressed me a lot. With the relation with the plan, I started investigating it, and I figured out, yes, this is one section which gives me a variety of lighting conditions within a building, outside as well as inside. Also, if you take the plan of Jaisalmer, it's a very closely knit town, right on the top of a fort. And the streets are very, very narrow, maybe allowing only a couple of camels to go by, pass by. And since it's in desert, it always these streets are shaded. So after about 10 years coming back from the US, I had an opportunity to go to Jaisalmer, which I've been longing for since I returned back from the US in 1981, 82. So I took a series of slides, and these are now scanned, this thing enhanced. Now, in this talk, I'm not going to show any of my works, but I'm trying to share my experiences with what architecture means to me. Okay, maybe this is an opportunity I think I never had, especially to exchange with the fraternity. So most of the things, what I'm going to present is going to be a series of my experiences, okay? Not as a designer, except for a couple of examples, but as an architect who experiences spaces, light, places. Now, if I want to say something about this, yeah. Let me go back. Is it possible to go back? Right. Oops. Right. Is there a point area? Yeah. Now, if you now we come out. This is the street. We're coming over here. There is a huge cutout. That's the courtyard. And you have a series of, you have terraces, you have a rich variety of places over there. And you have, again, different lighting conditions. A light quality over here is different than this, and right on the terrace it's totally different. And the light quality on the street, again to this and to the cellar. So these things are, I mean, it makes an interesting study of. So within the courtyard, you have all these openings, which is essentially the main uh, light giver in the area. And the very interesting part of this study was most of the things what you find over here is more a module. All the work is done in a module because the stone available is on a particular size. So everything repeats on that particular module. Okay, so same way, a person standing over here has a different feeling of light. A person standing over here is different. Standing over here is different. Experiencing it from inside is different. Again, the reflected ceiling over here. So, see, these are the things which made me very conscious about it, especially the study in the US. And now that's the interior. Thank you, Anita, for being my model at that time. So, huh? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, on the street, again, what you see, and again, also it incorporates a lot of things, or rather, the culture of it. It's very sort of a close sort of an environment. Um, the people are little more conservative in that area, being on the border of on the desert. So that's the terrace, and that's the view of the Jaisalmer Fort. This is an experience which I shared with Yashwant. This is a trip to Paika tombs. So I have some photographs which I wanted to share with you. Yeah, I think I don't want to speak anything about this because Yashwant is here, he knows a lot thing about it. But since at that day I had the opportunity to be with him to understand. Um, hmm? Okay, this is one of the projects which I recently completed. Partly it is completed. This is a guest house in Kul Park. And it took almost about a year and a half to complete, partly because they were running short of funds. But this project was going on for more than 5 years. So keep on, the trustees would come and then say, okay, aisa karna, aisa karna. And then after some time, from 17 acres, it got shifted to 5 acres or something, then again 3 acres. So they had given me a brief to design an extension of their guest house, which is adjacent to the existing temple complex. Coincidentally, 3 days back, I visited that place, and this is what it looks like right now. This is one residence which I did almost not 20 years back. He's a client, more a friend than a client, and I enjoyed working with him to the extent of finishing the structure and doing basic interiors for them, and then leaving it for him to design the rest of the interiors for them. This is on a 1 acre plot, and the interesting part is okay, my time is up already? Okay, fine. So I'll not go to the story of this. I'll show you a couple of pictures. Okay, that's this thing. This is the last project which I did. That's my residence. And my client was my wife. So that's That's the interiors part of it, which with my daughter-in-law wanted some things, my wife wanted something, so I designed according to them. Their choice. That's my daughter-in-law's quarters. And that's my entry. That's my apartment, which my wife designed. So, now, I'll give me 2 minutes of time. I'll just flip through a bunch of photographs, okay? I think this I have prepared it for my class someday, but I really wanted to share experiencing architecture. So I'll not really talk much about it, but I'll just go through this. This is a very interesting project which really touched me. This is one place in where as an architect has made the visitor experience isolation in a museum environment. Total darkness to make people feel what it is to be in isolation. Okay, so one has to really visit this place instead of talking. So let me just browse through this. These are some of the things which I picked up from the net. And these are my photographs. I have been an avid photographer since my childhood. And so I'd like to share that with you. This is very interesting. It's the axis of exile. This is a garden which where you have these columns standing, and then over that you have these trees. So he's making you experience what it is to be in a foreign land when you are in exile. Okay. This is over here. Yeah, this is that chamber where you have a very small slit where the light allows you to come in, and you have a stainless steel, a steel door which opens out and ends with a lot of noise and sound. So yeah. That's another interesting project called the World Trade Center, the Oculus. I enjoy walking in the street because this is now to Chicago, another public place, experiencing a public place. Yeah, this is a wonderful installation over there. I think one has to be there to experience it, but it's really wonderful. Thank you.